Hello, and welcome to this flight school of Extreme Cloud IQ Site Engine, where we are going to demonstrate how to install XIQ Site Engine in a virtualized environment. For today's flight plan, we're going to go through the preparation and considerations you need to take when planning your installation. We will show where to find the software packages. We will do an install of XIQ Site Engine on a virtualized appliance. And then we will show what the first time login looks like. And lastly, we will merge the Site Engine control and analytics engine together. For your checklist, there are three critical components which you want to prepare for. First one will be, what is your environment? Microsoft Hyper-V, VMware ESXi, or Linux. You'll also want to make note of your network size, how many switches and access points and third-party devices you wish to monitor and manage. And lastly, what is the scaling of your server from compute, storage, and RAM? And we have Hyper-V and ESXi packages available for small, medium, and enterprise sizes. Lastly, you will want to set aside some IP addresses and some DNS names for your three appliances which you'll be installing. And all this information is available on the emc.extremenetworks.com website, which is the documentation home for everything XIQ Site Engine. So in this environment, we'll be installing Site Engine, Control NAC, and Analytics on a host I pre-configured with ESXi version 7. The host has an IP address of 192.168.2.100, and I have a very simple NIC interface going to a switch with VLAN 192. The domain is extreme.lab, and my DNS server is 192.168.2.115. At the time of this recording, we are using version 22.09.13.05, and we'll be using an ESXi small image for the control and analytics and XIQ Site Engine. And the IP addresses will be 192.168.2.101 for Site Engine, .2.102 for the NAC control engine, and then analytics will be 192.168.2.103. Just some caveats and heads up. We will be using default values for the SNMP security criteria. So we recommend that you guys do use security best practices when deploying your Site Engine and use custom and strong SNMP credentials. I am using a very simple NIC configuration on my ESXi host. We recommend you use redundancy such as lag. For timing and licensing consideration, I do have XIQ Site Engine pre-installed on my lab. I did this because Site Engine takes around 12 to 15 minutes to completely install. So we'll be doing a quick installation of Site Engine and then shutting it down, and I'll be spinning up the Site Engine instance as pre-installed. And we will not be doing a Fabric Manager install because that is going to be a feature included in Site Engine in the next release. And this is an air-gapped deployment. So where to find the software? The software is going to be available on the Extreme Networks support portal page under Extreme Cloud and Extreme Cloud IQ Site Engine. Here you will find the last posted version for Site Engine, Control, and Analytics. And in each menu will be the packages applicable to you. Again, for Linux, Hyper-V or ESXi, and for ESXi and VMware, and for Hyper-V Microsoft, you will have the options of doing small, medium, and large. So I have I've pre-downloaded these images. So we're going to go ahead and log into our ESXi host and prepare these images. So we're going to create and register VM, deploy a virtual machine, And we're going to call this XIQ Site Engine. And I'm going to grab the Extreme Cloud IQ Site Engine, small OVA. Going to open it. I'm going to call this demo. Next, I'm going to pick the default data store. I'm going to pick the default network interface configuration and deploy it as a thin disk. And finish. That's now going to push over the network, and I'll see the progress right here. I'll repeat this now for the control engine. XIQ control. I'm going to select the NAC appliance, small OVA, open. Next, use the default data store. I'm going to leave the networking configuration default, disk provisioning thin, next, and finish. Lastly, I'll repeat this for the analytics engine. So XIQ analytics. This will be the Purview appliance, again, small OVA. Open, next, default data store, leaving the network interfaces default, thin provisioning, next, and finish. So now we'll see the progress of the images being sent to the host. As soon as it hits 100, we'll be able to go into the first instance of XIQ Site Engine and configure the initial setup. All right. So control finished. XIQ Site Engine, 95%. All right, it's booting up now. So it's going to ask you to log in for the first time, and we're going to use the default username of root. It's now going to give you a menu on how to use the wizard. The wizard is going to have some default values to help you speed along the install process. Where we can, we will use default values, and I'll show you how that works. So we will set up as root. So you can see that the yes, no, and then the Y is in a bracket. That means Y is a default value. We'll hit enter, and we're going to give it a new password for root. Great. And yes, I want to run as root. Here we go. And yes, I agree. I accept. Now we're going to give the XIQ Site Engine a name, and we're going to call it Extreme Control. And we're going to give it an IP address of 192.168.2.101. As per our table we created earlier. The mask is correct. It's /24 network, so we're good. And it guessed my gateway correctly, so we're good. I'm going to continue. And I have a DNS server, 192.168.2.115. I only have one, so I'm going to skip this. And our domain is extreme.lab. NIS is network file sharing from the server. We're not going to enable this, so we're going to say no. And now you'll be given an option to review your work and make sure everything looks good. So extreme control and 192.168.2.101 and /24 and 192.168.2.1 is the gateway, and 192.168.2.115 is the name server, and extreme.lab. So this all looks good. We're going to continue. This is where you'll configure your SNMP credentials, and this is where you'll reference the best practice guide to harden your installation. We are going to use the default values for speed, but again, we encourage you to use hardened secure passwords. We accept this, and we're going to continue. This is where you'll now configure NTP. I do not have an NTP server, so I'm going to manually set the time. So it is February. It is the 22nd day. It is 2023, and it is 1500 hours, and it's 35 minutes past the hour, and 18 seconds. Sure, good enough. Perfect. And I'll have an option now to pick UTC time. I do not want to use UTC, so I'm going to use the Eastern time. Click on 1. We're good. This is now going to install. I'll now be given a chance to correct anything that I may have got wrong, but I'm happy with what we've done so far. So I'm going to say 0, accept, and continue. This is now going to install. Now, this will take 12 to 15 minutes, depending on your server. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to turn this off. And I'm going to turn on the server I have pre-configured. There we go. All right, so now let's go into control. Now, control takes a few minutes to extract. So I log in with root. I'm just going to let that be for a few minutes. I'm going to skip ahead to analytics. So root. And same menu. I'm going to say yes, we're going to continue. And yes, I'm going to install with the root password, and I'm going to give it a new root password, confirm. We're good. For Analytics Engine, you need to configure the receiving interface to receive the application flows. You have 5 options. If you're an SLX, XOS, or VOS network, you'll likely pick 0 or 2, so single interface or interface mirrored. For the purpose of this, we're going to go with the single interface. For your deployment, you'll want to read the release notes and install guide on what options can be best for you. So we're going to call this now Analytics as a name. And we're going to give it an IP address of 192.168.2.103 because control is going to be 102. The mask is correct. Gateway is correct. Use the default values. We're going to give it my DNS server. I only have one, so I'm going to skip the second. Domain is going to be extreme.lab and no NIS. I'll get a chance to review my work. So 192.168.2.103 /24, 2.1, 2.115, Extreme Lab. All right, that looks good. Again, This is where you'll use unique credentials for your network, for your SNMP settings. We're going to use the default for speed. I accept everything here. Continue. I do not have an NTP server in my network, so I'm going to manually set the time. If you have an NTP server, you'll be selecting yes and pointing the appliance to your NTP server by IP address. So today we're going to do this manually. So it's month, February 22nd, 2023, 1500 hours, 39 minutes, 39 seconds. I am not going to use UTC. I'm going to set it to Eastern. 1 is the default. And that's now going to install. And I'm going to get one last shot to accept settings and continue, or go back and change anything. But we're happy. I'm going to continue. That should finish installing now. So I can now leave that be. We're now going to skip back to control. That should be done its process now. It has. So we're going to set the root password. Confirm root password. There is a default domain name for control, which is Control Engine. We recommend you use that. Now we'll give it an IP address of 102. The mask is correct. The gateway is correct. Name server 192.168.2.115. We only have one, so leave that blank. Extreme.lab is the domain. Now, this is where you'll have to point control back to Site Engine. So Site Engine was 101. So we're going to do that. 192.168.2.101. We are good. This is essential because the control engine needs to know who it's talking to, which is XIQ SE. All right, default SNMP credentials again. You guys will pick unique values for your network. We're not going to use NTP. Manually set the time. So month, day, year, 1500 hours, 41 minutes, 41 seconds. We are good. We're not going to use UTC. Select Eastern. 1 is the default, so we'll continue. And now we'll get a chance to review our work, make sure everything is good. 192.168.2.102. Gateway, domain, all looks good. And we're pointing back to the Site Engine 192.168.2.101. Perfect. We accept everything and we're going to continue. All right. So that is done. We'll check this up and running. Perfect. Now, when you log in for the first time, you will go to the IP address or domain name of Site Engine with the trailing port of 8443. Now, the first time you log in, you will be presented with a license agreement page. Then you'll be prompted to decide if you're going to use the cloud attached version with the cloud managed license or the air-gapped version. For the purpose of this, we'll be doing the air-gapped deployment. So on the next screen, you'll be given a locking ID. And when you return to the Extreme Support portal to activate your pilot or navigator licenses, the portal will want that locking ID to generate your license files. Once the license files are generated, you'll drag and drop them into here, into this field. It will validate the license, and then you can continue to Site Engine. And so when you continue to Site Engine and log in for the first time, we'll log in with our root and our root password. And we'll be coming to the product for the first time. So now Site Engine, control, and up and running, but now we need to merge them together. So first we'll do the control engine. And we'll come into configurator, editors, and engines, and we'll add the engine. So 192.168.2.102. We use default profiles, so nothing to do here, and we're going to add it. Oh, already existed. That's fine. So we're going to refresh. Now that's going to take a few minutes. We'll skip ahead to the analytics and add the analytics engine. So you come into analytics, configuration, and engines. And now we'll add the analytics engine, 192.168.2.103, and we'll just call it analytics. Page will refresh. So there it is. It's green. We'll enforce it to make sure it's good. And we are green. Analytics engine is up. We'll return back to the control engine now. You'll notice that there's a yellow bang and an amber bang on the engine. We'll just need to now install a NAC license to activate the product. I have a trial license right here. Update. Now you can see one of the options has turned green, so we're good. I'm going to enforce the engine to validate the install. The yellow bang has gone away, and we are good. So that is an XIQ Site Engine install. Now, if I return to devices, there under World are the analytics and control engine appliances right here, ready to be monitored. So thank you very much, and hope that was informative, and look forward to hearing from you and seeing you guys in future sessions. Thank you.